by Iran, launching a massive ballistic missile attack on Israel. We'll have the very latest developments just ahead. Two major stories this morning. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It's Wednesday, October 2nd. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the host of Way Too Early, White House Bureau Chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, MSNBC political analyst Elise Jordan. She's a former aide to the George W. Bush White House and State Department. The host of the podcast On Brand with Donny Deutsch. Donny Deutsch is with us, as well as professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude Jr., and MSNBC contributor and author of the book, How the Right Lost Its Mind, Charlie Sykes. A great group to start us off this morning. A lot of news. I want to start with you, though, because as I was nervously preparing to watch the debate, you kept reminding me vice presidential debates usually don't matter that much. After watching last night, do you still feel that way?
I do. Vice presidential debates don't matter. If they did, then Michael Dukakis would have been elected in 1988. In this debate, though, there several interesting things occurred, even though vice presidential debates don't matter. Polls show that Midwestern nice actually worked, despite Walz's shaky start, despite his stumbles on the China answer, which I have no idea why he didn't have an answer ready for that, other than saying I'm a knucklehead. I'll remember that. And just generally, you had with J.D. Vance, you had the elitist, the guy that went to an Ivy League school, who smoothly knew how to answer all the questions, smoothly knew how to work the format. And I think most people would say he did much better last night stylistically. But interestingly enough, and I've always found this with debates, you never know how something's going to come across. And Mika, when I saw the CNN poll last night that came out, it shows that Midwest nice really worked for Walz. Tim Walz's favorability jumped up 13 points. Has a 59% favorability rating after the debate, a 22% unfavorable rating before the debate. This is, I don't care if you're on Fox News, if you're AON, if you're on Newsmax, you just have to look at these numbers and you have to say that's extraordinary in modern American politics. For all of us watching, for all the elites watching that say, oh, he looked too nervous at the beginning. Oh, he was there's something that viewers liked, that undecided voters liked, that registered voters liked about Tim Walz. Maybe that's something that we'll be sorting through over the next few weeks to figure it out, even though it won't have a big impact on the election anyway. And J.D. Vance, his number, yes, he's upside down, 41% favorable, 44% unfavorable. But he also showed a side of himself that he has not shown before. And that is he tried to be more likable. He tried to be more agreeable. The people that knew him before he decided to be a Trumper said that he was a nice guy. He was a charming guy. And he tried to show a lot more of that last night because it's almost as if he got a sense that this election may end and he doesn't want to completely tie himself to Donald Trump. He's 40 years old. He has a future. And while Trump likes going to war nonstop against everybody, you got a sense that J.D. Vance decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna try to salvage my political career, even if Donald Trump goes up in flames. And so that would have all been fine and dandy. And there's no doubt this morning there's going to be consternation in Mar-a-Lago because everybody's saying that J.D. Vance should talk for the rest of the campaign and Donald Trump should shut up because J.D. Vance is so much better at this than Donald Trump. It's not even a close call. I mean, Donald Trump.
Lying?
Donald Trump is he's just smoother. If you want to say smooth liar, you can. But Donald Trump, though, I mean, he's getting old. He's they're not even letting him do 60 Minutes because they know he's just not capable of doing it because he can't answer policy questions. But still, J.D. Vance, Willie. J.D. Vance was stylistically better. He told a lot of lies about ACA. He told a lot of lies about other issues. But I will say this. J.D. Vance was very clarifying at the end of this debate. And he told viewers everywhere that was watching, if you hate American democracy, when things don't go your way, vote for me. If you hate everything that James Madison put together and Alexander Hamilton put together in the Constitution, if you hate the tradition of peaceful transitions that really, really define and ensure American democracy, if you hate that, if Donald Trump doesn't win every election, vote for me. It was one of the most clarifying moments in any presidential or vice presidential debate we could ever see, because he clearly said that he was going to continue the lies of Donald Trump and not even answer the basic question, did Joe Biden win the 2020 election? And yes, that will work very well for a lot of hard right people on the internet and maybe on X and other social media platforms. But he defined himself. He defined his campaign, and he defined the choice in this election. I am not a Democrat. I doubt I will ever be a Democrat. I'm an independent. And I'm one of those people that's looking at both of these guys, and you know, people ask me, why don't you support the Republicans? JD did my work for me last night, because one side is anti-democratic, the other side is pro-democracy, pro-constitutional republic, pro-James Madison checks and balances, pro-peaceful transfer of power,
pro-women's rights,
and well, you can debate that.
I get
that's been
yes,
part that's been part of the debate since 1973. What has not been part of the debate has been whether we continue with a constitutional republic where there are peaceful transitions of power. And last night, J.D. Vance refused to answer whether he supported the peaceful transfer of power, Willie. And as Robert Frost would say, it's either Robert Frost or Horseshack, and that made all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, after a strong debate performance that had, I agree with you, what you're hearing,
he was good.
when they had Republicans saying either J.D. Vance is the future of the Republican Party, or I wish he were at the top of the ticket because he is so much better at this than Donald Trump. The mask slipped there at the end when he was asked a very simple question from Tim Walz, who turned to him and said, did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election? He did not answer that question. And by the way, leading up to that, he said again and again, we had a peaceful transfer of power. Okay, maybe in that 1 hour on that one day in January 20th, it was peaceful, as, by the way, the Capitol was ringed with security fence, so nothing could happen because of what did happen on January 6th, trying to rewrite history. Here was the exchange at the end that Joe's talking about.
Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald Trump has said. It's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country.
This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested itself because of Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020 COVID situation?
That is a damning non-answer. What I'm concerned about is, where is the firewall with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election and his vice president's not going to stand to it. That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So, America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Donnie, plain and simple. Governor Walz turned to J.D. Vance. Did he lose the 2020 election, as 63 courts decided, as everyone around Donald Trump knows and has said since that he lost, as Donald Trump has slipped several times and said he lost? Couldn't answer the question. So for as smooth as J.D. Vance was, for as fluent as he sounded on policy, we'll get into some of the contradictions on the Affordable Care Act, claiming that Donald Trump tried to save it when, in fact, the exact opposite is what happened. His own record, misrepresenting his own record, J.D. Vance, on the question of abortion. There's a whole lot to comb through, but he was good last night. That moment, that crystallizes the whole thing. You can't even say that your running mate lost the election.
88 minutes. He was good. I mean, he was too slick, maybe, but he certainly was not the kind of despicable character that we had kind of seen in clips of. I thought it was a draw up until that point, and I think that was disqualifying. I think that's disqualifying in the election if you can't say that. I mean, I think that's the issue, that whenever I get into debates with anybody, I go, well, but democracy, kind of on the docket. I want to go back to Kimmel's joke at the beginning that it was boring, and I was thinking the whole time, this is going to be a referendum on what people want going forward. I think the big theme of this thing was that it was very congenial, and it was not a blood sport. It was not UFC. It was more like boxing. And is the American public, your intuition says, well, the American public is ready for that. They want that. But then I kind of says to myself, there's this sick, twisted thing that people are addicted to the sick entertainment value of Donald Trump, and that they were kind of disappointed. I was enjoying it, but they were disappointed. Oh, no, that's no fun. Are we going to go back to that? Now, my better angels in me say, no, people are ready for that. But it's an interesting question. Final thought, going back to what Joe said this morning at Mar-a-Lago, what's going on is that people are going up as they're getting their Danish and their bun cake at Mar-a-Lago. They're going up to Donald and saying, boy, Vance was great last night, wasn't he? Wasn't Vance great? And that's going to bother him.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to really bother him, that he was better than Donald Trump, that he could litigate the case better than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, you're going to see, he's going to be very dismissive of J.D. Vance in the coming weeks. But Donald Trump is not happy this morning because J.D. Vance showed himself to be a superior candidate.
I mean, that's just an objective truth. Put the two side to side. Vance is much, much better at this. And Trump did praise him on social media last night. You did get the sense watching J.D. Vance last night, Jonathan Lemire, that he was aware of his likability, being in the dumps of Donald Trump, being this abrasive, caustic figure that people want to look away from, that they're sick of, and to present, in those 90 minutes anyway, a reasonable alternative. Now, you could only think that if you only watched last night and hadn't seen everything else he does on the campaign trail day to day in support of Donald Trump.
Yeah, Vance definitely put forward his best version of himself yesterday, and frankly, aided by Governor Walz, who the two men were so civil that Walz almost normalized Vance. He never used the word weird. Tim Walz is on the ticket because he kept talking about how J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and Republicans are weird, and he never used that last night. To Donnie's point about maybe Trump's mixed feelings about the debate, though he praised Vance's appearance, he also at one point mid-debate started tweeting about Pete Rose deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. So perhaps his own attention was sort of lost. But at least I was also struck that the Governor Walz did. He sort of took a pass on some what could have been some pretty devastating attacks. He didn't mention the weird issue. He never brought up childless cat ladies. Just never came up. He didn't talk about Ukraine. And Ukraine, where Vance has made clear he has no interest in supporting Kyiv. He only brought up Project 2025 once. And that's an issue that's been so effective for Democrats. That said, that final minute in January 6th, about January 6th, was Walz's best moment.